Amrita Vedika, should we start and people can dial in, and also we'll share this recording with everyone. So what do
Yeah.
you say? Or do we want to wait for a minute and start?
No, I think good to go, right?
Yes, we are. Let's start and people will eventually join in. Yes, okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you to all the participants who are there online who have joined us on a Thursday evening. Thank you so much. And my gratitude to Amrita and Vedika, who have also agreed to be the panelists for today's panel conversation. This will be a pretty free-flowing conversation and a little attempt for you guys, specifically for people who are interested to know more about the program, about what Vedika and Amrita have accomplished so far. The format is pretty simple. I'll start by introducing our panelists, then move on with the long list of questions that I have for them, and would request the participants to put in their thoughts, comments, and questions, whatever they have, in chat box and the Q&A box, whichever is visible to you guys. So let's start with the introduction. Amrita Sabnavis, an alumna of Women on Boards Cohort 3. She leads client account management of Haqdarshak Empowerment Solutions Pvt. Amrita has 3 decades of experience across banking, wealth management, private equity, microfinance, and insurance, and also has been an entrepreneur. She is dedicated to social impact and financial inclusion. Amrita serves on the Finance and Audit Committee at Precision Development, is on the advisory board of Yein Udaan, works as an acting advisor to Bethel Life Care Charitable Trust, a Northeast-based NGO, and mentors girls in STEM through Katalyst mentorship program. Welcome to the coffee chat, Amrita.
Thank you.
And here we have also with us Vedika Agarwal. Vedika is an education leader and social entrepreneur with a master's degree in educational leadership from the UCL UK and a background in economics and statistics from St. Xavier's College, Bombay. Her journey in education started as a volunteer teacher, eventually leading her to establish Yein Udaan, an organization dedicated to bridging learning gaps in marginalized communities. During the pandemic, she partnered with the Chennai City Police to provide aid to over 200,000 people and set up digital libraries for students. A TEDx speaker and recipient of multiple national and international accolades, including recognition as one of the 20 global COVID-19 heroes by the Commonwealth Secretariat, Vedika continues to champion education equity. She also serves as a school coordinator at SVA School for Girls, a free school for 210 girls in a small village in southern India, and as a regional board advisor at Teach for India from Global Teach for All Group. Welcome to the Coffee Chat, Vedika.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you, for joining the Coffee Chat. I will I'll open the floor by asking a question to Vedika. Vedika, while we introduced you, could you please share a bit more about Yein Udaan, the incredible work you do, and the stakeholders you serve?
Sure. Thank you for that introduction, Ritu, and good evening to everyone. Like Ritu was sharing, I run a nonprofit in Chennai. We're called Yein Udaan. We're a community-based organization, which means that we run our programs in one large low-income community in the city. Interestingly, the community we work in is India's second oldest Dhobi Ghat, or Dhobi Khana as they're called in the south. We run 3 learning centers in this community. The community is fairly large, has about 30,000 residents and about 3,000 children. And we work with over 400 children in the community at our learning centers. We run two kinds of programs, a kindergarten, which runs in the mornings from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., focusing on children's foundational literacy and numeracy skills. And then we run an after-school program for children who go to the local government schools, and then they come to us every day after school hours. While we work with the children, we do a lot of family mobilization work as well, because I personally believe that no impact is sustainable when working with the child unless the parent or the guardian is involved in the delivery of that impact. So we run multiple awareness sessions, mental health programs, and best practice programs for the adults of the adults who are in the lives of our children as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much for answering that, Vedika. I'll tell you an interesting thing. I always thought it is Yein Udaan in Hindi.
Yeah.
Today, while I was thinking, I thought that yes, probably it means something in Tamil. I went and I translated it in Google, and I saw it means with me in
Yeah.
Tamil. It means which is Yein Udaan and not
Yeah.
Yein Udaan. But
Yeah.
really nice. I mean, I really love the
Yeah, so what's special about our name? It just happened, to be honest, it was not planned because I didn't know Tamil when I was starting the organization. I've learned Tamil only over the last couple of years. So I always knew I wanted to name my organization Udaan, but then I also knew it wouldn't connect with the Tamil audience. So I did the simplest thing by adding the Tamil word for my, which is yen, right? So I made it Yein Udaan. And then when I started working with government officials, they would keep calling it Yein Udaan. And I would just keep correcting them till one day an official was like, don't correct us because it's a great meaning in Tamil too. You know, like it works in both languages. Yeah. So even my family, they call it Yein Udaan like you. The Tamils call it Yein Udaan and the actual name is Yein Udaan.
amazing. I mean, yes, it was amazing actually. Yep. Shifting one question to Amrita now. Amrita, how did being part of the Women on Board program shift your internal compass, both personally and professionally? What elements did you bring back to your personal and professional space post the program?
So the Women on Boards program, I mean, just to take a step back and, rewind why I actually thought about it as well was because after a long career in the corporate world, I felt like I needed to do more, something in the nature of a portfolio life. And I also wanted to do more with giving back and, making networks there, trying to see how I could find myself relevant, keep myself relevant and in a position to give back. So when somebody told me about this program, it was like it was like a sort of a wonderful moment because I said, this is exactly what I want, a community of women who are like me, like-minded, bright women who are, in a position to give back and want to do this. So I think from that perspective, that was like the starting point of my journey. And when I got on to the program itself, the one thing I told myself was that while the program is called Women on Boards, I did not want it to be like an end or a stop in unto itself. I was looking at it like a journey because, even if you say Women on Boards, if you tell yourself that ultimately this is a program that's going to place you on X board or Y board, then that's really the end of the learning. Right. I looked at it as if it was an opening, a starting point into, how organizations like Vedika's operate. Right. And I said, in whatever capacity, I mean, it didn't matter to me that I was going to be on a board, not be on a board. What was important was that I was in a position to, sort of learn and contribute. And I think that journey has been very, very fulfilling. At the end of the program itself, as well as while working with Vedika, I would like to say I've learned more from Vedika than, been, in a position of advisor in that sense, because it's really been a two-way process. I've really grown as a person from observing the kind of work that she does. It is absolutely fantastic. Just the courage that I think, it's a little bit of courage that comes with being very young, as also, the amazing gumption and the conviction that she has. I took a little bit of that into my personal life. And I said, you know what? This is how you learn to be a risk taker. And I think that's paid off quite well for me personally.
Thank you for saying that as a two-way process, Amrita. I mean, it really is. I mean, learning is always both way and definitely amazing. This question is for Vedika. So, what were you looking when you wanted to create your advisory board, and what prompted you to reach out to the Women on Boards program to get support or help towards building your advisory board?
Yeah. So to answer the first part of your question, right? Like, what was I seeking and why? So at Yein Udaan post-COVID, we saw a sudden growth, which I was not expecting, because also I was going back to the community after 2 years of, distant learning and just aid work and not actual programmatic work. So obviously I wasn't clear on, where the family stood in terms of education, learning, what was the approach to like after school activities, and things like that. But then suddenly post-COVID, pre-COVID, basically when I started the organization, to set context, we were working with about 30 children. And post-COVID, in April of 22, when schools reopened in Chennai and such, we had about over 100 children at our doorstep with their families wanting them to be at Yein Udaan, right? And it was just me at that time. So I was in shock, obviously, and I didn't want to turn any child away. And that's when I kind of found myself at a place where I had to fundraise. I had to build a team, right? I had to figure out curriculum more systematically and how we're managing our impact, things like that, and our outreach. So that's when I reached out to Aarti, who's one of the key leaders at Women on Boards. And I reached out to her in a place of, from a place of fear, that I have so much to get done and I'm overwhelmed. And that's when she told me about the program, and she mapped me not to one, but to two advisors, Amrita being one of them, from the program. And I think it was because of that sudden interest in Yein Udaan in the community, and the need for an organization like Yein Udaan to exist in the community, that I reached out, because a lot had to get done and I knew I couldn't do it alone. And it was the first time I was figuring things out, like fundraising and, building a team and things like that, right? So I needed to talk to people who had experience in it, who knew how to go about setting these things up. And yeah, so that's how I got connected to Women on Boards, because of Aarti, and that's why I got connected. Yeah.
That was really interesting, Vedika. To continue with this, I wanted to ask one more question to you. Is that so? What are the key changes that you have actually seen post you got engaged or started having an engaged advisory board? I would
Yeah.
say.
So I think the first answer that comes to my mind, and very loudly, is confidence, right? Because now I had people who were not only validating what I was saying and thinking in terms of my approach, my outlook on how to support children and families in low-income communities, the kind of impact we were having without even knowing it fully, right? So I think my advisors really gave me a lot of reassurance, and thus built my own personal confidence, in terms of, validating what I was doing. So that is definitely the first thing. And I think it was a very, very important thing, for me, a very, very important soft impact that my advisors have had on me, because also when I was looking for advisors, I was, like I said, overwhelmed, right? And I felt like a headless chicken. And I've used this term for myself a lot, even with Amrita. So to put things in perspective and help me find my ground again, was a very crucial role that, my advisors have played. So that's a personal boon that I found. In terms of professionally, I think each advisor, especially Amrita, they've helped with different aspects of the development of the organization, right? So Amrita, when we started talking, she really helped me understand the way forward in terms of strategy, right? How can we reach more children? How can we do more for the children that we're already reaching, right? How can I talk about the work we're doing without being shy about it, or without feeling insecure that it's a small number of beneficiaries? So I think in terms of strategy and in communications, my advisors have supported me a lot and given me clarity and direction in how to approach both those very crucial aspects of building an organization.
Those points about strategy and communication, on point, Vedika. Thank you so much for, listing those points for us, what actually helped you, and that was really amazing to hear. Now coming to Amrita. Amrita, what do you feel? What value do you think you have added to Yein Udaan after coming into the advisory board, and what has changed for you in this process?
Yeah, so I think there is very little that an advisor can do at an operational level, right? Obviously, you're sitting miles away. Vedika and I have met, maybe one or two occasions. We've mostly been online, but there's very little that I can do at a ground level to actually help out. There's always a temptation that one should, but I think the most important lesson as an advisor I have learned is to be a good listener. Sometimes it's always, as someone who can be a good coach or good advisor, I think it's very important to listen to the person before you really deeply. A lot of things, so I think my role was more as somebody who just helped Vedika sort of confirm what she already knew. For someone who's doing so much already, right? You can't step in and say do things differently or don't do something, because a founder comes with very deep conviction that they have already built. It's not like a corporate, right, where you turn around and say, hey, listen, if you want to maximize revenue, this is what you need to do, and this is how you cut costs, and that's not how it works in a not-profit. I think my biggest learning was that if someone's putting in this level of passion, this level of, it comes in with so much conviction, then the best thing that you can do is to stand back, give the person space, the ability to, use you as a sounding board more than anything else. So I think that was something that I felt that I gave back. And I think that is something that I learned to do also as a process. A couple of things were like, for example, when she needed to do the TED talk, like and I still remember when she wrote out her speech, and, we actually went over it, we practiced it. And I think it was amazing, because here was this woman who was so, she had everything except the confidence to go out there. And, I think that to me was shocking, because here I was very confident, having achieved nothing like she had done. But, it was a great way of transferring a little bit of that confidence and that energy onto her. So I think those are the small things. Or when she actually had to let go of somebody, and that was a difficult decision, I remember, for her to make, right? But you need to at that point in time actually talk to somebody who's probably been in this process of, having, let people go, whatever. And I think that is something that I served at that point of time. So I think being a good listener, and bringing to the table empathy for the cause, for the founder, giving them enough space and not pushing them with any kind of questions that were not necessary. I remember we had one meeting, Vedika, I don't know if you remember that, I must put that in. So there was this one meeting where we had a whole bunch of advisors that she had got on board, like people who were, it's all right. And and I realized that all of us, because we came in from different positions of, having different experiences and all of that. And at that point in time, it became a session where we were all bombarding Vedika with a lot of questions. So what do you think is your strategy going to be? But how are you going to expand? Are you going to go deep? Are you going to go wide? I mean, and I think at some point in time, I also realized, I'm sure the others as well did, that this was not proving to be a great kind of so the advisor really doesn't need to be the one who's asking all the hard questions. There's a stat board who's doing that in any case. An advisor really needs to be the voice of reason. And I think taking that step back and just being a good sounding board has been my journey with Vedika.
Amrita, I really now can connect to what Vedika said when she said that you instilled confidence and validated a lot of things for her. I can see that now. I mean, it's
Thank you.
amazing. And I can't just say for the sake of saying, but yes, I always love having coffee chats with women leaders like yourselves, both of you. It inspires me so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to add, like, both the examples Amrita shared, right? Like, even before my TEDx talk, I remember, first of all, I took forever to write it because I was just procrastinating going up on that stage, and I was like, do I really need to do this? And Amrita would keep pinging me, being like, where's the script? Where's the script? And I'd just be like, I don't have a script. Like, stop it. But then, like, when we started going through it, and she was like, don't frown so much. You're talking about your kids. Like, be like happier when sharing these things. It really helped. And even after that tough advisor meeting, right, that she mentioned, I think, she reached out and she picked up on the pulse of, how stressful that was for me. And she reached out and she was like, okay, let's redo one-on-one. And I think that meant a lot, right? Because, yeah, it was tough. But then for her to take cognizance of that and stand by me and kind of reapproach that conversation, I think put us in a much better place after that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really, I mean, there's so much that when I hear you speak, and there's so much to absorb it, I mean, you become speechless. I mean, like, I know as such, it's so difficult to run, an organization, have that dream to do something big, and then you have advisors who come in and support, like Amrita. Yes, of course. Amazing. Okay, so moving on. Vedika, how would you describe your advisory board today? And what are some of the aspirational goals that either you have set or the board has set for itself for Yein Udaan?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer this question candidly. I feel like my board is more invested in me than I am in them, right? Because I have struggled to bring them together. And they very kindly make an effort to keep in touch with me, which I really appreciate. And I feel like it's a couple of things, right? One, as a sole leader of this rapidly growing organization, I've struggled with my bandwidth for the last couple of years, right? And I've been very vocal about that, be it with my advisors or my team or even my donors, where I've taken cognizance of the fact that I'm doing multiple people's jobs and, trying to find my way around each of those roles. So I've struggled, and thus one of my aspirations, definitely, good news, we onboarded my co-founder this month. So my bandwidth is definitely already opening up. So one of my aspirations, definitely, and goals is to more proactively engage my advisors, because they're great when I reach out to them and I need help in any aspect. They're always forthcoming with their expertise, and I need to leverage that more, right? Considering how much they're invested in me. So yeah, so definitely engage my board more, and I think utilize their skill sets also, their networks, through that engagement. So already when I was creating my board, I reached out to individuals very carefully based on the requirement and on their expertise. So now that I've done that careful curation, it's now more for me to use that presence. Yeah. Does that answer your question fully?
Yes, yes, it does. I mean, I get it that I mean, not that you have everything listed right now, no. But yes, I understand that in a long term, right now, you want to engage more with your board members, and since you've carefully already picked them, you would want to engage more with them basis on their expertise. And yes,
Yeah.
I understand that. Yeah. Vedika, drawing from this, like from your side, I wanted to ask this question. What, as a founder, do you think is there's a right time to form a board, and what is that right time wherein you form an advisory board? Yeah.
Yeah. Great question. I think the right time would be when you can commit to your board, from my learning, right? For me, what happened over this journey of the last about 12 to 16 months is that I formed my board when the need was really high, right? And so to meet certain needs, I was reaching out to people. But then when other things took over, I was not able to sustain that communication and that relationship. So I think for me, it was a response to a requirement, which wasn't obviously, evidently, the sustainable way of going about forming my board. Right? So definitely, I think when a nonprofit, especially with maybe like an individual leader like myself, is looking for formal support in the form of an advisory board, they should be very conscious of having the time to commit those many hours, either with the board as a whole or with individual board members, right? And not just reach out when there's a crisis that you need, support solving. And I think that is how I'm going to also change my approach. So in terms of time, yeah, you can play the crisis game, but I suppose in my experience, it was not sustainable, right? So, and I feel like something I've reflected on is, if I didn't have the bandwidth, I need not have formulated a formal board, right? I could have reached out to these individuals in an informal capacity and been like, hey, can you help me? But since I made that commitment of forming a formal board, then I need to stick to that commitment. Yeah.
That's absolutely great insight, Vedika. And having worked for 2 years in non-profit, I also have eventually seen this working in founder's office, and I realize how appropriately you've put this.
Thank you.
Amrita, next question is for you. Do share with us about your challenges and opportunities that you faced as an advisory board and how you overcame the challenges.
So I think, I don't know that I've been challenged per se in this kind of thing, because I think, and it leads in from what Vedika said, right? So I think what I would like to have been able to do more of, right, is and which I could not do, obviously, because I have a full-time assignment and I have other engagements that I have, is help out with some of the fundraising aspects, which is something that I would have liked to do more of, but I had to specify at the very beginning that, look, I'm sorry, but there would be a conflict if I did any of that. So from that perspective, I think that was the only thing that I would have liked to do a lot more of. I don't think there's been a challenge. I think one of the only other thing is that I want to visit Yein Udaan a lot more. I mean, I have not been able to in person do that as yet, which I'm very ashamed of. I'm putting it out there. We've had a lot of engagements. I've seen all of the videos. I've seen the work that they've been doing, but I would like to actually go and spend time and, especially for that day on which the parents cook. I would, there is the festival that happens on that one day. And I've been wanting to go for that. But up until now, that's really only been the challenge, which is that, you've been just the distance, right? Just the fact that she's in Chennai and I'm in Mumbai, that's been the only real thing. But yeah, in terms of capabilities wise, I haven't been challenged per se. No.
Amrita, what would be one of your advice to, there have been new cohorts that have come up, and cohort 5 and 6 are just starting their journey as advisors. So what would be 2 or 3 key learnings that you want to share with them so that they know how's this space going to be for them?
Sure. So I think the biggest thing, and this is something that I talk to a lot of women who, ask me this question as well, right? So uh, the Women on Boards program, like I said, is a entry into your journey as an advisor for not-for-profits. It gives you the chance to interact with a lot of very smart women who are in a position to drive a lot of change. It also puts you in touch with diverse founders from diverse who are espousing diverse causes. So, you're not. So for me, for example, girls' education is very, very dear to my heart, which is why, children's education is very dear to my heart, because I think that's the biggest changing point. But that's not the only thing. There's other stuff also that one can do, one can get exposed to. Don't treat women on boards as don't look at it in a transactional manner. Don't look at it in terms of, oh, what's it given me? Has it given me like a placement on a board or not? I would say just use this opportunity to network tremendously with a lot of founders, work even as a volunteer, get involved, get, sort of submerged into it. Because like, for example, the first time I was introduced to a couple of founders. There was no chemistry, and at least 2 or 3 of them, I said no in at least 2 cases. One person said no, there was a different founder. But I'm saying that, you may not necessarily find the best match in the first instance itself. Give it time. Look at it as a learning experience, as a journey, and definitely see what you can do for your own enrichment from this program, rather than saying, looking at it like a management degree and saying, okay, at the end of it, I need to have placement on day one. It doesn't work like that.
And what would be a few key pointers that you want to share once they are already in boards to?
So yeah, again, very, very good point. Very good question. So I think, like I said, right, being somebody who brings an enormous amount of empathy, understanding, because the founder's journey has been very different from, let's say, our journey, right? When we come in with a wealth of experience. We've been through different kinds of experiences, but we don't have the same lens on the problem that the founder is trying to solve. And so transposing and coming in with an advisory approach where, just because I'm, nominated to be an advisor, I have to start giving advice from day one. Don't feel pressured to do that. I think get immersed, understand, empathize, learn, listen. And then, maybe it sometimes just works, in a very beautiful way when let's say Vedika and I are having a conversation, right? And I may not even have a solution. At the end of the conversation, she's figured out something for herself in her own head. It could literally be something where, you're just a sounding board and you're a listener. So I would say don't go into it with this thing of, I come from a position of how I can, make this organization better. No, it doesn't. It's never going to work that way.
Wow, Amrita, that was such an amazing perspective. I mean, yes, just because you have come in and as an advisor does not necessarily mean that every time you come in from that lens and you share your thoughts and all the time keep giving us. Amazing. Yeah. Moving on to Vedika now. Vedika, what would you share as learnings to founders and CEOs who are looking to expand or set up their advisory board?
Yeah, I think I partially answered this question, right? About having the bandwidth. Hello. About having the bandwidth to sustain your board and actively engage with them and take that commitment seriously. So that is definitely one part of effective engagement. I think also, like I was sharing, being very conscious of your curation, right? Because you want the right people on your board who are not only supporting the needs that you have, but are also buying into your vision and your approach, right? So, like Amrita was sharing about her experience of not having immediate good fits, I had the same experience. Because I was talking with people who don't believe in depth work, who want to look at large numbers of you know uh, beneficiaries, and that's how they define their scale and impact, and that was definitely not aligning with my approach and my ethos. So finding those people also who believe in what you stand for and what you're working towards is crucial. And not just saying yes to an advisor because of the name or the brand that they bring to the board, I think is also important. Yeah.
If I may just add to that, I think there's also this angle where, sometimes the bigger the name, the more the pressure to sort of feel like you have to listen to them. So sometimes it can get quite counterproductive because they come in with a wealth of experience and a big brand name, but not necessary that there is that a bandwidth to be able to comprehend or to be able to empathize as much. So it's a fine balance, and it's literally like it's like a dating game in that sense. I
Yeah.
may say so. It's been a long time, but yes.
Going back to that question, how long did it take to finally, for both of you guys to finally settle in and decide that yes, you want to continue together, you want her as an advisory board, and you want to continue with Vedika as the organization that you want to support?
So I'll go first.
Sure.
Age before beauty. So I think for me it was literally I think I had one meeting with Vedika and I just decided that this was somebody whom I would love to be associated with. And I say this without I know that this sounds like a bit of a fangirling moment, but I'm saying this in all genuineness because uh, this person, I mean, for somebody who did not speak Tamil, to make this community her own. And, if you listen to Vedika and the way she talks about the kids, I mean, one would imagine that she literally is mom to all of them. I heard about her challenge, and she'll say these, very, things which you feel are very difficult. Like if I was confronted with problems of that sort, I'd be like, oh my God, what do I do? And she's very bleakly going through life because this is what she expects. And, the courage was amazing. So I took one look at her and I said, look, let's just be smart. This girl will teach you more than you will be able to. So let's just.
Oh, that's too
That was, that
generous.
was
I'll tell you the actual insider story. It's because Amrita's daughter's name is also Vedika. That's the bias.
slightly. I might have been inclined to sort of think about it like that.
No, I'm kidding. No, thanks, Amrita, for all of that praise. Yeah, for me also, I think I had spoken to a few members of the Women on Boards program before I got a chance to speak with Amrita. And I think the immediate comfort I had with her, right, being an introvert, um, I'm guessing like you can sense our camaraderie on this call itself. And I think that was important to me because I get intimidated very easily. And for someone to make me feel secure and be a voice of reason at the same time was very important. And after that first call itself, like I knew that she would be a great value add not only to the organization but to me as a person. And so I've clung on since. Yeah.
It's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure to have someone like Vedika. I think also because, I have a young adult whom I mean, not a young, now she's an adult, a full-grown adult, but uh, it gives me a sense of insight into how young people think. And I believe that for me, that has been a real, it is a little, I mean, if, at the risk of sounding immodest, it is a little bit of a superpower. So I can relate. I can understand. I don't come from a position of the elder, and I think that's sort of been and Vedika has risen wonderfully up to the relationship. So it's been great.
Yeah, it's also there in the chat how people can see the bond, that the camaraderie that you guys have developed. It's amazing. So, going back and I'm listening to this, and I'm curious now. I want to hear both of your like in the introduction, it was a little bit about Yein Udaan. I mean, I want to see when Amrita said Vedika, you have to listen to Vedika to know how she feels like the children. Vedika, do you want to actually share a little bit about your I mean your children actually? How
Sure,
engaged are
yeah.
you and
Yeah.
how you talk about it?
First of all, thanks for putting me on the spot, Amrita. Appreciate it lots. No, just kidding. No, I love talking about my kids. So I've been with my kids for the last 10 years now. On Feb 5th, 2025, I actually spent my 10th anniversary with them. So many of these children are children whom I've seen over the last 10 years, from when they were in grades 1 and 2 to now writing their board exams in grades 11 and 12. So it's been very special decade for me. All of my 20s, spending in this community with these children and their families. I don't limit my engagement or my relationship just to the children, right? So I'm very used to, and the community is very used to having me walk around the streets, pop into houses, ask for tea, things like that. So yeah, my kids, but just to give some more contextual understanding, they are largely children of daily wage earners. So the their monthly household income is about 4 to 8,000. That's the kind of income bracket that my kids come from. Most of our dads, over 90% of our dads, struggle with addiction, either alcoholism or drug abuse. So the kids experience a lot of domestic violence along with their moms. So when I was starting Yein Udaan, more than the impact in terms of education and holistic development, it was to give these children a safe space to be after school, right? Because after 4 p.m., a lot of my kids just have to go back to that violent household environment, right? And then they're getting abused by the dad or by the stressed mom who's taking out her frustration on them, or they're running away from home and spending time on the streets, and that's when they're getting into negative behaviors, getting influenced by negative adults in the community. And I wanted to protect these children from all of that, tap into their talent, tap into their potential. And that's why we run as an after school space, because a lot of times I feel that that time in the child's life is neglected, right? So yeah, so my kids are very special. Last year, we had our first 3 college goers. One of them has even joined the police force now. 2 of them have come back and they volunteer at Yein Udaan as teachers. So it's amazing. Like, I'm seeing my long-term goal with Yein Udaan is to place the organization in the hands of the community and exit. Only then will I believe that my impact is actually sustainable, right? If I have built the social capital of the community for them to run and sustain the organization that safeguards their children and educates their children. So it's already very, very moving for me to have my older kids coming back and volunteering and teaching the younger ones. And I'm guessing that cycle will just go on year and year. And soon all the kids will be running it and I will finally retire. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Don't
see
think I'm
that
happy
now.
for a very, very long time. I'm so sorry, but this has to be said. I think, I don't, there will always be someone who will need a presence like Vedika's. And I don't think they're letting her go off in any.
Yeah.
Now when I see this, my children, and it was heartwarming, Vedika. I mean, I don't have words to express
Oh, thank you.
how deeply you feel and how much you're trying to do for them. Yep. So now that I'm thinking, I like we have to go back and ask this, because I now I want to know what was your, like, what was that trigger, what was this moment that when you thought that yes, I should create one organization as like Yein Udaan, and not because you know the story that people that these kids need 4 p.m. wala space for them, a safe space for them, but what was that trigger moment, that one incident that you saw or that really inspired you कि नहीं अब तो ये करना ही है and stuff like that?
I think that was in college. Um, so up until college, up until I was 18, I honestly did not know that people lived in marginalized communities or lived life very different to mine. At St. Xavier's, I had to do voluntary work as part of my credits program, and I think that was a wake up call, because I was placed in a low income fisherman community in Bombay, and I had to go and volunteer over there as a teacher volunteer, and it was very difficult for me at first, right? Obviously, I was out of my comfort zone and I had no idea that slums were a thing. And, like people actually lived marginalized lives beyond what I saw on TV or in film. So to experience that firsthand was very difficult, and also it was very moving, because I remember that trigger you're asking for. I'll never forget it. So I would go for my voluntary hours and I would sulk in the corner of the room. Let me be honest. I would just not talk to anyone, even the children, and I'd just be like, I hate my life, but I have to come here and mark attendance. And one day while I was sulking, I heard the teacher of this program. She told the kids that there are only two continents on planet Earth. One is India and the other is America. And the minute she said that to those kids, I was just like, are you joking? Like, you can't be serious right now. And I think that was the turning point for me. And instead of sulking, I started teaching, started doing, serving the purpose that I was there for. And once I started communicating, right, with the kids and with the teachers, I began understanding context. And that's when I knew I had found the purpose of my life, that I was going to work with marginalized children in marginalized communities. And I moved back from Bombay and told my parents that I was going to be a social worker. And that's how it's been 10 years. Yeah.
How did your parents take it when you said I want to
My
be
dad,
social?
I think I have like the most supporting parents by God's grace. Um, my dad at first thought it was a passion project. So he was like, huh, do it, no problem. You'll get bored of it types, and life will move on. So now 10 years later, I'm constantly, teasing him, being like, this passion project is evidently still going on. No, but they are very, very supportive. Like they come for all events. They know my mom, we do annual trips with our kids, and my mom goes for every trip. And then she'll be jumping around like a child at 65 and then falls sick, but she loves it. And they know that many of the kids by name. And yeah, they're very supportive. And of course, like I tell Amrita, I don't tell them about all the scary stuff that I see and experience, because then I know that, protectiveness will kick in. But yeah, they're oblivious and they're happy.
Yeah, the scary stuff you reserve only for me. So
Yeah.
there's
But
a story,
can't that.
out.
and there was a story that Vedika was telling me about, if I may share it, Vedika. There was this, and she said, yeah, and there was this email that she had drafted about how there was a parent there was a father who was actually arrested for murder. And, and then progressively the story got, even more murky, because there was his father was arrested. He was an abusive guy. Then there was this other incident where this, the mother was feeling threatened. She was obviously being abused, so she ran away from home. Child was left in Vedika's care, in the care of Yein Udaan. The mother didn't come back to pick up the child. And every story, my jaw drops. I think I have to pick it up off the floor and physically put it back every time. So, Aarti, to your question about the aha moment, every conversation with Vedika is an aha moment where you're listening and saying, how do women how does she do this? Because this is not her history. It's not about coming from a certain background, being empathetic. It's a different level of empathy that Vedika has for this. So each time I listen to it, it is like, God, how does she do it? Oh my God, how does she do it? So I think in that sense, the scary stuff she reserves only for me and other advisors, I presume. But yes, if I was her mom, I'd be very, very stressed out.
Wow, great. Vedika, there's a question in the chat from Aarti. Do
I
you
just
want
saw
to
that.
take it up? Yes.
Yeah, so RT 2029 definitely want to work with all 3,000 children of Chetpet, and we've already started planning on how we're going to make that happen. Whether it's on safety, it's on joy, it's on care, education. Just make sure that whatever we're doing for our 400 right now, we're able to do for all children of Chetpet. So that's what 2029 definitely looks like for me. And also by then, many of these kids that I've spent the last 10 years with would have graduated college. So curious to know how many of them come back also, and take the mission forward. Yeah. Thank you.
Amrita, there's a question from Lovely. I think we have not answered. Partially answered it. Of course, you have answered the learnings, but if you want to still go ahead and say, how has your experience with women on boards influenced your approach to leadership and governance?
I did touch upon this earlier, but I think the Women on Boards program, first and foremost, just the understanding that entrepreneurs in the social space are very different from entrepreneurs in the for-profit space. The same metrics of scale don't apply. So I think coming here and switching off, like I would often ask Vedika, saying that, but what's your plan? How do you scale up? Success and metrics for success are very different in the social space, and that appreciation, that learning has really sort of been very important for me. That is one. The other is just the sheer discipline that both parties have to bring to the table to make a relationship of this kind work, right? You have to invest time. You have to be there mentally. You have to be there. So when I am talking to Vedika, or when I have that 1 hour that we've set apart, I know that I'm not going to do anything else during that time. It is not a cursory conversation. It is a deep conversation. It gives a lot of respect to the founder. Because I have that respect for what she does. Now, whatever the cause is, whatever it is that whoever it is that I would be working with, the same level of, single focused, sort of concentration, if you will, on that cause is very important. And the discipline to be able to say, like Vedika said, right? When she was a single founder and she didn't have any help, I did not expect her to be the one to initiate a conversation. I initiated it, and I would send a message saying that, hey, been a long time. How are you doing? What's happening with you? And I think even that much is important because it shows that I'm engaged. And I think not looking at it as like I said, like a transactional relationship, very important because you don't know what the other person is going through. So discipline and just showing up when you're supposed to show up and reaching out when you know that things are difficult is important. I hope that answers your question, Lovely. I haven't gone into the courses within Women on Boards because I don't think that would be the subject of this chat. But everything that I did learn there definitely has been very, very useful indeed.
No, thank you for sharing that, Amrita. It's actually the words like the phrases like showing up and when you share that it's two-way, and discipline is required to maintain that relationship. It's not always Vedika reaching out and saying, we can discuss this. It's always you. It's also you coming back and telling her that, Vedika, are you okay? Do you want to share something? Do you want to discuss about something? It's really amazing that you guys have that relationship. Kudos to both of you. We have 5 minutes, and I have a final question if there's nothing else in the chat. Any final thoughts on the role of advisory board and their evolving significance in the social sector? And this question is for both of you.
You want to go first, Vedika?
Sure. Yeah. I think personally, over the last year, right, since I've put my board in place, I get asked a lot about the board. If I have an advisory board, who's on my board, and people pay attention to that. So I think, even the sector, even CSR, they're taking it seriously that this, the leadership is seeking support and support from the right people. So I think that's of growing importance in the sector. So yeah, I would encourage everyone listening to consider being on boards or setting up their board if they have the bandwidth, and then later, like Amrita said, if they have the discipline to be able to sustain it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd also say that, sometimes there's always, and all of us, whether it's a for-profit, and I've been an entrepreneur, a food entrepreneur, as a matter of fact. So when you look at you're creating something, this is your creation, there is always a tendency for people to say, okay, listen, I know what I'm doing, right? And I need to. There are some of us who will feel the need to have validation or having a voice of dissent even. I mean, it's not that I agree with everything that Vedika has said. I mean, there are enough number of times that I said, but, why would you want to do that? Or, would you not want to look at it differently? So the ability to listen to a contrarian point of view is also very important. And advisory boards give you that without sitting on judgment. And I mean, if you have a good advisory board, that can actually be harnessed very well. Don't tell me only the good things. Don't tell me that, I'm only doing a great job. Tell me why I should be doing, like, I know I've been pushing Vedika saying that, why only Chetpet? We should look at more. We should. Now, she may not be ready for it just right now, but there is a germ that I have planted at this point in time. So maybe that, one of the kids that she has trained will come back with it. But at least there is the thought that, yes, I mean, at some point in time, maybe Yein Udaan becomes like a sort of an advisor to other organizations that mushroom like this all over the country. There are many things that can come out of just the ability to have an open conversation with somebody who comes to you with zero agenda and says, yes, this makes sense, and I would do it this way if I were in your shoes, or no way, this is absolutely not okay. I would not ask you to do this. The ability to do both. And I think advisory boards are a beautiful way of actually harnessing the power of both dissent and validation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amrita. Thank you, Vedika. That was a final question from my side, and I don't see other questions, but I definitely have one comment that I want to make. This conversation has been nothing but exceptional and very, very heartwarming for me. I learned so much, made like 5 pages of notes. I don't know what will I do with this. I'll keep reading and feel happy about it. And thank you so much. Yes, I do that. I read up and feel happy about it that I made notes. I learned something today. It was amazing having this conversation with you guys. Do you have any final thoughts that you guys want to share?
I think I just want to say, Ritu, that you've been a wonderful moderator. And
Yes, I was gonna say.
it was really nice having you there. You put us so much at ease that, I had made notes and I didn't look at any of them. I've been freewheeling, and I hope I haven't rambled too much, but it was fun having this chat. I mean, it was a lot of fun, that I would like to say.
Yeah, I agree. And thanks so much for bringing Amrita and me together in this space. And like she was saying, like, I haven't looked at any of my prep. I spent all morning making notes and answering your questions. But then, I think the conversation just went very fluidly, and it's, the flow was great. And kudos to you for moderating it such. Thank you so much. And I hope we were helpful to everyone listening. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to everybody who's commented in the chats personally, because I'm getting distracted while typing, so I don't want to do that. But I just want to thank all of you for just making the time, being here, and being so appreciative of the conversation. Very encouraging. It's Really lovely. I mean, I hope it was an hour well spent for all of you, and just thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amrita. Thank you, Vedika, for your time. Thank you so much for coming in and being so candid and sharing so many insights and so many inputs for me at least. And I will share this recording with our participants and other and obviously the newer cohorts that have come in for everybody to take a look at and learn from what you guys have as an organizer, as an SPO and an advisory board member. It's definitely amazing.
One
Thank you.
last word.
Yes.
One last word. And Aarti left just before I could give my vote of thanks to her, because if Aarti wasn't the force of nature, and I call her that, if she wasn't the force of nature that she is, I don't think even Vedika and I would have met. I don't think I would have been half the advisor I'm proving to be, or would never have got this opportunity. So a huge thank you to her, a huge thank you to the leadership at ISDM. It's really been a very, very valuable journey indeed.
Thank you for saying that, Amrita. I will convey. I hope Aarti is listening to this. If not, I will convey this to Aarti and of course the leadership at ISDM. Thank you so much for joining us today and making time. I really appreciate it so much. And thank you to all the participants who were here today and joined us. Thank you so much, Amrita and Vedika. See you soon.
Thank you.
Keep in
Goodbye.
touch.